back to another episode of Two Girls, One Shelf. I'm Tabby.
I'm Paula.
And we are a little bit traumatized and victimized by last week's book, so we decided to do a different book today on the YA spectrum.
Yes. Definitely has nothing to do about corns, and we're happy about that.
Yeah, no cornfields. No pieces of corn were harmed in the making of this episode. Thank the Lord. I feel better after this read.
I do too. It was definitely a palate cleanser, which is what I feel like we needed.
Yes. So today we are reading One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and this is one of my top 5 of the year.
Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite reads of this year. It really is. The magic system in this and just the story itself is honestly something I just haven't experienced in any of the fantasy books that I've read so far.
Yeah, it's definitely a fresh take on fantasy. It's something new. And yes, it's what we needed.
Yes, and I love that there's only 2 books.
Yes.
So I could immerse myself in this, but I wasn't just in this series of books for 10 or 15 episodes.
Yeah, I could come up and breathe.
Yes, exactly. It's like I could finish this and be like, okay, there's an ending to this series and I'm happy.
So One Dark Window, basically we're following this main character, Elspeth, which I actually really love her name.
I do too. It took me a second to not say Elizabeth while I was reading it, but I do like her name.
Yeah, so we're following Elspeth, and she lives in the town of Blunder. Basically, you find out that there is kind of like this curse. I will say it's like a curse that this deity puts upon the people. They can basically get an infection. You could see black veins, stuff like that. So we start the book learning about that. I think the first scene in the book, the physicians are coming for her because she's gotten sick with this infection.
And her aunt just straight up pushed her out the window.
It's a bye.
Yeah, it's like, I remember when I read this, because it was like 3 sentences. I was like, dadgum.
Yes.
Like, Rachel's just out here just hitting them fast.
Yeah, so we find out, basically, if you have the infection, you're going to die. That's just essentially... You get infected, I'm the physician coming in to fix you.
Yeah.
Just kidding, I'm coming in to wreck you. Flash forward, Elspeth's living with her aunt, uncle, and her cousins because her father sent her away after the whole infection ordeal. They're trying to keep it secret. So they're trying to protect her because if you survive the fever, half the time you end up with some sort of magic power.
Yeah.
And nobody wants you to have a magic power unless you have these nifty little things called Providence cards.
Mm-hmm. And Providence cards are basically, there's 12 of them that come from the old book of the Adlers. And it is apparently the only legal way to use magic is to use these cards. I said, but if you use them for too long, then they have a major consequence with them.
Yeah, I did like the Book of Alders. I think like it was just a cool, like a bedtime story almost, but it's about all these cards and ways to use them because the original king had wrote this book. But Elspeth and her family has like basically memorized this book.
Yeah, I think honestly, I feel like the whole city of Blunder has though, because if you talk to anybody about it, anyone can pretty much recite any sort of line in that book.
So Providence cards are like, I guess, religion almost.
Yeah, they're like Pokemon cards, but you know,
You collect them.
I
mean, I guess you're right. I choose you, Black Horse.
Yeah, exactly.
So they have 12 different cards. And I'll read them off to you. I have them right in front of me. We have the Black Horse, which is basically like, whatcha, master of combat, you know?
Like Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, and if you use the whatcha too much, you just get really weak. Boo. You have the Golden Egg, which brings you lots of money, but it also makes you very, very greedy as your consequence. You have the Prophet, which shows you glimpses into the future, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that one
But
too.
it makes the users helpless to change the future, so everybody's just trying to change everything at all times. We have the White Eagle, which brings courage, but then its weakness is it brings fear, which I thought was pretty funny.
It's very counterproductive there.
The Maiden, which makes you beautiful, but then it makes the user's heart like rock solid, just basically a jerk. The Chalice, which turns liquid into a truth serum, and then that turns into poison. That turns the truth into poison. I can't speak today. The Well, clear sight to recognize one's enemies. Weakness, you're betrayed by a friend. The Iron Gate, blissful serenity no matter the struggle, but steals years from one's life, which I don't want to be blissfully happy for a short period of time.
I don't know. I feel like that's just, I live my life as the Iron Gate card.
You're just blissfully
happy at all times, so I'm probably going to die young.
Yeah. This card scared me the most. Well, I mean, I guess the second most, the Scythe, because this one gives you the power to control other people. So you could be like, go jump off a bridge, and they're like, ah!
can't recover from him.
Oh, good old fourth wing. But it brings you pain. Like, you were hurting so bad when you're using this card. You have the mirror, which brings you invisibility, but it lifts the veil between worlds, so you get to see some spooky people. Get to see some ghosts. Which I thought was kind of cool.
I did think that one was cool.
But I mean, could you imagine there just being a raunchy looking ghost and you're like, oh, I'm invisible. And you're like, God! Like, God, dog, chill out.
Like, Bert, go into your own room, okay?
Then you have the nightmare, which it lets you speak into the minds of other people. So I could be looking at Paul and be like, I just told her that my underwear are purple. And she knew it because I had used the nightmare card.
It's in there now.
But it reveals your deepest fears. That's the offset to it. And then the Twin Alders card, which is the card that is so hard to find in this book. Everybody's looking to unite this deck, because once you have the power of the 12 Pokemon, you defeat the game.
You are the Pokemon master, okay?
Yes, so basically...
Of Blunder.
Basically, the spirit of the wood, she is the deity from the beginning, that she set out this mist so that way, once you go in there, you fall under her spell and she brings you to your death.
Apparently you get salty and then you just become crazy.
Yeah, and then so you gotta carry chicken's feet or, something
a
like...
charm.
Yeah, but chicken's feet, a feather of a animal that doesn't exist. Just random things in your pocket so you don't get misted away by this lady.
What's crazy to me is that, we'll get into him, but Raven's charm was a freaking viper's head or a cobra head or something.
Like, why?
Yeah, and I understand, it doesn't really matter for him to use it or not or anything like that, but still at the same time, I'm like, why are you carrying this thing? He's got a fang and everything.
Yeah, what if it poked him in the leg?
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? But Twin Alders is sought after because once you apparently unite the deck, then you get to clear the mist. Obviously, there's probably going to be harder things than that. But that's essentially what everybody's trying to do. Everybody fights over these cards to have power. The more you have, basically, the more power you have in the community. And they're looking for the 12 cards, but I don't think anybody's really looking for the 12th card.
They weren't really trying that hard if it's taken this many years.
Yeah, I think the king was just like...
Yeah, he's like, hey, I'm looking for him, but not.
Yeah, but give me your cards.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give you my kids. Give me your cards.
But
Wild.
basically, the book starts back into a flashback where we kind of find out a little bit more about Elspeth. So basically, the flashback is just her uncle coming back from a hunt, and he has received the Providence card, which is the nightmare. And like Tabby said, it allows you to speak into the minds of others.
Purple underwear.
Purple underwear, yes. You know about everybody's underwear, where they're free balling, commando, all the things.
Yeah, they'll tell you.
But at this point, Elspeth has yet to gain any magic power since having the fever, which is actually very weird because... Usually it's not supposed to take this long. People are supposed to just develop the magic pretty quickly.
Manifest it.
Yes. So she sneaks into her uncle's study to look at the card and she touches it and basically passes out. And when she wakes up, she realizes that she has activated the card, which normally when people activate the card, it takes 3 touches.
Yes.
And she realizes that the nightmare is basically in her head now, which is wild to me. Could you imagine you're just like... And then you wake up and there's somebody clicking 3 times in your head.
I would be so mad, first of all, because you can't get rid of your head.
Yes, yeah.
Arm, chop it off. Head, kinda need it. Kinda need it. This is when I would use that one card to be blissfully unaware. Or blissfully...
Just blissfully happy. You're cloud 9 all the time.
Yeah, please take years off of my life at this point if a nightmare is living in my head.
But on top of having the nightmare in her head, she basically gets stronger in her senses, and she can also see the Providence cards as well. So if someone has one in their pocket, it glows into a specific color. Each one has their own color.
Yeah. So going back to, I guess, the Book of Alders, the original king, they called him the Shepherd King. He was the one who wrote this book about all these cards and all their abilities, kind of just this little diary, this little Alder diary. He's just writing down everything.
Dear diary.
Bump
the spirit of the queen.
Wood. The spirit of the wood. Bump her. I'm going to unite the deck. I'm tired of for power. But basically, before the cards were a thing, people would come to the woods and honor the spirit and ask for their blessing. So she was just the beautiful divinity deity kind of... I'm
so
tree,
pretty, and I'm a
cute
tree.
stuff.
People pray for me.
But the spirit of the wood ended up giving the Shepherd King his powers by creating the cards to share his powers. But every time he asked for a card, basically something was taken, or there's a barter of some sort. Mm-hmm. So since they had his cards, people didn't need to come pray to the spirit anymore. So she got mad. She
got vengeful.
She's like, oh, you could get these cards from me, and you think, all right, missed. She's
like,
missed.
Sprinkling it out there.
Come get salty. I'm gonna eat you. Like, she don't care. She's crazy. So she sent out the mist, and she's like, it ain't letting up. It's only gonna get thicker. Y'all suck, basically. But the mist ends up luring people out. They lose their minds. It also can bring the infection on. Get you your little spider veins.
Yeah.
But if you survived, you end up getting some of the wood's magic, which is kind of cool, but they gonna kill you anyway, so you can't have no magic from her. Yeah, you can only have cards.
At the same time, like, the magic is just unruly as well, because you never know what you're gonna get or what direction it's gonna take either.
Yeah. But the Shepherd King, he went into the woods to convince the spirit to take away the mist after it got crazy, and the Shepherd King came out with the Book of Alders. But the mist wasn't able to be lifted because the spirit tricked the Shepherd King, and he bartered the Twin Alders card before she told him how to end the mist. So the Twin Alders card must be found to break it.
Dun dun dun!
Yes. So we're going to flashback forward.
Yeah, so now we're basically, like, into the present. So Elspeth is coming home from her father's house. Basically, Elspeth is coming home from her father's house, and she's coming home from her twin sister's, I think, namesake day, or it was Elspeth's name day. Don't really remember.
It was Elspeth, because Dad got her the flowers.
Oh, yeah. So basically, her stepmom is, you know, she B-I-C-T. B-I-C-T-A-C-Y. Wait, what? What am I spelling? B-I-C-T-H. That was a lot of letters.
The world is glitched.
Anyways, she's a big capital B word, okay? Anyways.
It's like those people when they're like, sanitizer. Henny sand.
No, my brain was like, like, it's just like short-circuiting. Anyways, so she's coming back from her father's house. Her and her stepmother got into a fight. So as she's walking back, she gets stopped by highwaymen, and they basically ask her for her uncle's card and their location. And we find out that stealing a Providence card is the death penalty. So she lies and tells them that she's a maid and she doesn't know where they are, and they don't believe her, which honestly they probably wouldn't believe me either because I'm a terrible liar.
Yeah.
And she asks the nightmare for its help, and it basically takes over the body, and she's biting off these people. She's like, hey, yeah, you know, with the nightmare's help. So she runs, and she mentions how when she asks the nightmare for help that it burns, and she gets those black marks down her body, like when she had the fever, but they always fade, which I think is a little different for some people, because I feel like they always had the black marks to show them that they had
to indicate that
they were infected or not.
Mm-hmm, the infection.
So luckily for her, hers always came back.
Which I thought this part was crazy because I wasn't expecting her to be like, hey, nightmare, help me. And then it'd just be like, cha-cha!
Yeah, I didn't expect it. I thought it was just going to be this thing that just she could speak to it, right? I didn't think that it was going to be able to take over her body like that.
Yeah, so that's like she woke up in beast mode.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, I'm a big dog.
Yeah. Doing big dog. Just literally. She's like, hey, buddy, help me out. He's like, all right, man. Just freaking werewolf vibes. Just crazy. And then the way that the nightmare comes out, he doesn't just spook him. He comes out
swinging,
like fingers.
Like, he
swinging.
Is fighting for his life. Like he is just out here just swinging claws, everything.
He's like, no one's gonna hurt my host.
Yeah.
Look, she touched the card and I'm free. I am in her head. I ain't going back.
Yeah, basically.
But Elspeth and family, they end up going to the king's castle for Equinox. This is like a celebration that happens every year. Elspeth's uncle plans to give the nightmare card to the king to cover his taxes, but also get a little bit of a trade out of it. So the nightmare warns Elspeth that her uncle is trading the card to the king. But he always speaks in riddles, which I love this about the nightmare.
I did too. I really like all of his little riddle inserts in there because it makes you think. Because it really made me, every time he had a riddle, I always sat there and thought, okay, what does this mean?
Yeah, so he speaks in nothing but riddles, and she's like, can you just tell me what you're saying? He's like, no, I'm going to tell you the hawthorn tree carries a few seeds. Its branches are weary. It's lost all of its leaves. Be wary of the man who bargains and thieves. He'll offer your soul to get what he needs.
Which was a hint later in the story.
Which...
Yes, and that's why I wrote this quote down, because this quote is going to mean something, which I'm so glad that I did, because I was able to refer back to it and be like, dang! The foreshadowing in this book is insane.
Yes, she did a really, really good job with that. But when the trade of the nightmare card is happening, we also find out that Ione is part of this deal, and Ione ends up being betrothed to Hoth in exchange for the nightmare card.
Trash.
Which is crazy. So Ione's up there with Dad, just like, heh, I'm meeting the prince, blah, blah, blah. But bad prince. We don't like Hoth. No.
He's just a big old butt face.
Yes. And then Elspeth runs into this poor... I felt so bad for this character.
Justice for this man.
Yes. I felt bad for him. Alec Laburnum. But basically...
I'm glad you said his name. Because I would have been like, Alec L. You know who you are.
You would have been like, I
know. Alec.
You have to drink a little before you say it. But you find out that he's been writing Elspeth letters ever since she sat next to him at the king's court and they kissed. Ooh. But she never writes him back.
Elspeth, now you're being a savage.
But Alec, the way that the author writes him, he is just a sweet little man who cares about her. He is a weenie.
He's a big old weenie.
But he's like the romance weenie.
No, he's like a big old Costco weenie. Just a big old foot-long weenie.
But I liked him.
I thought he was adorable too. But, I mean, Elspeth is just hood. She got a nightmare in her head. She don't need a little sweet man.
That's very true. I bet Nightmare's just sitting there like...
Trees!
To the trees! Throw him in the mist. But she never writes him back. Elspeth sees Alex and he wants her to sit next to him, but she doesn't want to. And the Nightmare's like, nah, I don't want you to sit next to him either.
He's like, I hate him.
But Alex is like, come on, girl, come sit next to me. The trees, I hate him.
But during this point, Elspeth is trying to get away from Alex, so she unknowingly actually sits next to the king's nephew, Emery Yu, which he just sounded so cute with just his gray eyes. I totally thought he was going to be the love interest when I was
did
reading
too.
this. I was like, okay, Emery sounds so cute, even though he's a little younger, you know, okay, a little baby face. Yeah. Elspeth's going to be a cougar, but okay.
Whatever.
So
weirder things have happened.
I know, exactly.
Corn.
Yeah, corn. If you don't know about the corn, listen to our last episode, Carving Kara.
Actually,
traumatized.
Don't read the book, just listen.
Listen, okay? Anyways, so they both decide to leave the ball to get some air, even though Elspeth really doesn't want Emery to come with her, but he comes anyways. So during this point, Emery kind of changes a little bit. So after he touches Elspeth, he tells her how he sees the yellow gaze in her eyes and kind of shadows and darkness, which I thought was weird because I was like, wait, where's this Emery coming from? What happened to him?
Yeah, because literally he's like,
like the darkness, the gaze, the yellow. I was like, oh, okay. I don't understand.
Because he's like grabbing her and then he's just like,
yes, like he's like, the darkness is coming for you.
Yeah, it was very old school burn the witches, you know?
Yes, yeah, it was
witch
just
trial.
Weird. Yeah, it was weird.
Scary.
Yeah, but basically Emery is death grip on her and she slaps him. But but then all of a sudden this knight in shining armor, or should I say in darkness, okay?
Oh, stop.
Emery's brother Raven Yu comes, and I'm already in love with this man.
Yeah, by the way he is described, I'm like, hello.
Yes. It was like 2 seconds in, I was like, yeah. That's my man.
There's the love interest.
That's my man. Which is the king's eldest nephew. It's Elsbeth's father's successor. He's the captain of the Destriers. That is not what I thought. That's like equestriers. That's not how I read it. Anyways, he's the captain of the guard. I'm telling y'all, this hooked on phonics is not for me. So Raven basically questions her on why she doesn't live with her father. This man's just bold. She slaps his brother. He's pulling his brother off of her, and he's like, "Why don't you live with your father?" Like it's just, sir, what is this? Like, I just got whiplash from this.
Yeah, and then she was just like, "It ain't none of your business."
Yeah, exactly. But then she's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm a fair maiden. I apologize for my outburst. I'm just tired. I mean, I be getting cranky too when I'm tired, but I just thought it was funny that she used it. Oh, I'm a woman. I'm emotional. Yeah, you know, so I can yell.
But really, she's just like, I still can't stand him. Like, what you mean? You're asking about my daddy? Mind your business. Yeah, what about your daddy? Worry about yourself.
Let's talk about him. All right.
Yes.
Anyways, but He ends up walking her to her room.
And then in this part, Elspeth ends up seeing Ione in the garden with the maiden card in her pocket. I hated all of this.
I did too.
But
I hated this part.
I was happy that she didn't use the card at this point, but Prince has given her the maiden card. I guess we're betrothed. Here's a present to make you
suck.
Yeah, like, hey, you ugly, take this card. Fix your gap tooth. Like, I mean, first of all, I got gap tooth. So he'd be like, here, take that maiden card, fix that.
It ain't big no more, man. It ain't big no more.
Suspect came over here on a raft. It's gonna be tacos about my suspect.
Not on a raft. It was a coconut raft. Okay?
Yeah. Could be roasting me about my London look. If you haven't seen our suspect video, you should definitely go watch it.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna tell like this the rest of the podcast.
No, man. You can't see it.
You can't see it, but it's this big.
Not anymore.
It was. I could fit 7 quarters in it.
7. She could buy like 4 drinks.
Look,
with the quarters that she had in her teeth.
I could eat a corn cob and make it have a pattern. You know what I'm saying?
Made the corn look like a tiger.
Gave it some stripes. Had to push all my food to the side because ain't nothing was getting chewed at the front. Alright, I promise I love myself and my gap tooth. But anyway, Prince Hoth gives her this card to fix her gap tooth, and then Elspeth warns her, Ione, don't use this card, you're gonna lose yourself and get in it. But Ione's like, don't tell me what to do, I can make my own decisions, I'm a responsible young lady, and I'm marrying Prince Hoth.
Which was so weird to me because in the beginning they described their relationship as being so close.
Yeah.
So it was so weird for them to be arguing about this.
Yeah, especially since they've grown up with the Book of Alders, knowing everything that it says about these cards. If I came up to you and I was like, Paula, be really careful about using this card. Look, main card, tricky stuff. You may want to tap it a little bit. But
whatever, this heart's already stone cold, man.
Like, God. You'd be like, stay in your lane, please. You probably would have done what I did. I'm rock hard.
But I'm a big dog.
Doing big. But I feel like we could have had that conversation without it being a fight.
No, for sure.
You could have been like, thank you for caring about me, but I'm going to go do what I want.
Be gone, peasant.
Yeah. Tap, tap, tap. Woof. Just.
Look at this snatched waist,
yeah.
Okay?
Muffin top, what you mean? What you mean? We're talking flat top.
A flat top.
I tell you, I would be in the bathroom just like boop, 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 boop.
And I'd be like, boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop, that's what I'm saying. The card would be like, boop, 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 boop.
Jesus. We could not have magic cards at all.
No, we wouldn't survive.
We would not magic card responsibly.
We wouldn't survive because honestly, we would probably use it so much just to laugh.
Yeah.
That we would get the whatever consequence very early.
It'd just be like, tap, 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 Paul, look at this. Just showing you my butt.
Look at these cheeks.
You'd be like, give it to me, look at this. Blah, blah, blah. The girl's night gone wild.
But after this fight, basically, Elspeth runs into the woods just to get away from Ione, and Raven finds her there.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she, yes. It's like, my little croissant. Yeah. You like croissants?
Oh, I love croissants.
My little croissant. You like Maganites?
Oh, I love Maganites.
Your boyfriend? You got a boyfriend?
Where your boyfriend at?
But Raven finds her and she has thorns all in her hands from a fall and basically asks her if he can help her. So he examines her hands and asks her why she was in the forest 15 days ago.
He just wants to know too much about her. Where's your daddy? Why are you in the forest?
He really do. He really just be asking about all the questions. So basically we find out that he was the highwayman who attacked her and she fought back. She noticed that he has the ivory hilted knife, which was the same one that he pressed against her neck and was trying to make her be like, hey girl, where the card at? So she runs away from him in the forest and she starts smelling the salt, and then she hears Raven's voice in her head and it causes her to scream. Like, I would freak out if I was just running and then I already got one voice in my head. Now I got another one in my head.
But I don't know why she screamed. You would think that you wouldn't be caught off guard by a voice in your head. Just, you already got me in your head. And if someone's just like, hey girl, I'd be like, great, another one. I wouldn't even be mad. I wouldn't be calm. I'd be like, God, get out of there.
Basically, he catches up to her and he's trying to quiet her because the Kingsmen are coming down the road. She's fighting him, she's kicking him, she breaks his nose, and she's not calming down. And she doesn't calm down until the nightmare tells her to, which I feel is a big deal for the nightmare to trust somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
And it showed just kind of the trust they had in each other, too. So the nightmare is like, okay, dude, you gotta chill out. And she's like, well, okay.
Yeah, no, she's like, bah, bah, bah. Like, just like limp noodle.
Yes, nightmare. Yes. Whatever you say. But it just kind of shows, okay, so there is a bond there. And it's more than just surface. They're kind of like friends in a way.
Yeah. Well, finally, after she calms down, Raven notices the dark veins running down her arms, and he's looking at them. And basically, he's like, oh, okay, so you're a decent liar. You're going to fit right in. What do you mean she's going to fit right in? What does this mean?
Yeah, where are we fitting in?
Yeah, where are we fitting in at? I mean, I'm trying to fit in with him, but
yeah.
Anyways. But he has to calm her down because she thinks because he's the captain, he's going to take her away, take her to the physicians, and he's like, no, I'm not going to arrest you or kill you or even take you to the dungeon. He says he's just interested in her magic.
Because everybody who is infected has some sort of magic. And she's just like,
I know, she's still unsure about it. She's like, I don't know about all this.
But then she's like, I don't have no magic. But then she's like, well, I guess I could see Providence cards.
Yeah.
I guess that's it. That's the best I got. I'm a magician. So, back to Equinox Night, Prince Hoth reveals Ione's dad is knighted.
Dub D.
Dub D, you gave me the nightmare card. You get a position. But the prince is engaged to Ione, and she's using the maiden card at this point, which is very, very sad. So Elspeth finds Raven and tells him she has to know all of his plans. Like, hey, what you got going on? I'm curious now.
Yeah, especially now that Ione is using the card since she was so concerned about it. Which, I hated Ione in this book.
Oh my gosh.
I did not like her.
Stand her.
I did not like her.
You are supposed to be her best friend. I understand family fights, quarrels, whatever, but y'all are close like how we are.
Yeah.
Super close. We don't argue. Ever.
We just talk trash to each other.
Yeah. I think we've argued maybe like twice in our friendship. Maybe. That's a maybe.
Yeah. But probably twice. I would say twice.
Yeah, that's it. And we've been friends for like, how long?
Like 17
years. Like a long time.
God.
I know.
Stop. That's a whole adult.
Oh my gosh, we're teenagers.
I know.
We're teenage
We're
friendship.
young.
But anyways, I'm just thinking, okay, y'all are besties. Why are y'all fighting like that? We don't fight like that. Y'all shouldn't fight like that. Chill out. But Raven ends up like, all right, you can come meet the others. And we're still, who are the others? What is happening here? But he uses the mirror card, but she doesn't want to because she is scared that if she touches the mirror card, she's going to turn into a mirror or some bullcrap like that. Because, you know, she absorbed.
She's like,
mirror, mirror on the wall. I'm Elspeth.
And I'm stuck on the wall.
She's like, God dang it! So she's like, I ain't touching the card. I already got one nightmare in my head. I ain't about to relive this other nightmare. But they end up running into her stepmother, the evil stepmother, which I cannot stand her.
Trash.
And she's just sitting there, meh, talking down on Elizabeth. Talking about on Elspeth, saying that she's trash and infected like her mother, blah, blah, blah. And which I thought was really bold that she's saying this in the castle.
Yeah, which I think she's just mad because she knows that Elspeth's father still loves her mother.
Yeah, but that's a weird reason to take it out on their child. Like, no sense whatsoever. But she's literally the evil stepmother, so let's just keep it going. But yeah, Elspeth pops off and tells her the truth. Daddy still loves his mama.
And it was a big old burn. I was like, ooh, girl.
That hurt me.
Yes, do you need some lidocaine spray? Because it must have been stinging.
But Raven ends up whisking away Elspeth and wipes away her tears. Her little tears.
I would have sat on his face right then and there. I loved him.
I've been like, why is this rough man rubbing my face? I'd be so shocked. I'm like, I don't know who these others are. I don't know who he is, but I want to love him.
Look, he was invisible right then. I would have threw my body on him so fast.
But could you imagine you being the only one being risky and it's just invisible?
I guess that would be kind of weird.
I would just hate to be like, oh, let's close the door. This is some weird exorcist stuff going on right now.
Elspeth's kind of weird.
Yeah, like, oh, she's levitating? Wow.
I would have walked out of the room so fast. Woo-wee! Lord Jesus, I gotta go.
This is a different kind of foreplay. Woo!
Basically, Raven's taking Elspeth to meet his squad of people. So you have Jessiper, which is his sister, Elm, which is Prince Hoth. I don't know. I know, it's like a loogie.
It might as well be
Prince Yuck.
Yeah.
But, and then we have, I've been saying Flick.
Philic.
I've been calling him Flick, which is...
I like Flick better though. You got Flick Willow.
Flick Willow, which he's a physician, but he's also Raven's cousin, and you have Raven's parents. I've been calling him Finnair.
I mean, that sounds pretty good.
Finnair, and then Moret.
Yeah.
Okay, look at me!
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of weird that Moret is the king's sister.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of weird. It was like, why couldn't she be the ruler? Why's the king?
Yeah,
Why
why
the
him?
why did the king get picked?
Because the king just seems like this big ding dong bing bong. He's
Yeah.
just doing everything to stay rich and be happy.
You know what? I bet Moret would have found the cards.
Oh, she would have found them. That's what she's trying to do.
I know. But they basically request for her to submit to a forum before they tell her anything to test her trustworthiness, which I was nervous for her at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, they're already at the point where they're telling her, hey, we're doing some stuff and you got to be trustworthy. She could go ahead and be like, hey, they're doing some stuff.
Yes, exactly. I feel
I don't
like
know
they
what
told
it is.
her a lot, but not at the same time. They didn't tell her specifics of what they were doing, but they were also like, hey, we're being kind of shady towards the king.
It was so weird because that's just red flag. Red flag. But they're like, okay, well, we'll figure out if you're trustworthy or not. And Elspeth is like, what the heck are these people going to do to me?
But they give her 3 options. Basically, you get pick control, truth serum, or violation of the mind. So Elspeth decides to pick the Scathe. Which one would you pick?
I'll probably pick the scythe too.
Yeah, or Scythe. Scathe. What's a Scathe?
It sounds like a word. It sounds like a word. I just don't know what it means.
Dang, y'all. Well, she chose the Scythe, okay?
Scythe?
The Scythe.
Not Skype.
She's like, ring, ring, ring. Hello, it's Elspeth. Come back again. But Elm, during this point, he starts being a whole butt face to her. He makes her feel happiness and then hopelessness, and to the point of wanting to hurt herself. So basically, she's just getting whiplash of all of these emotions.
Yeah.
And then she starts slapping the crap out of herself 3 times before Ravens just basically tells him enough.
I thought that was excellent. She's like, what that? What that? And she's slapping her so hard,
Yes, yeah. She was like giving her own self a beat down.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, no, this is going, who's going to stop her? Who's going to stop? And I'm just over there like, dun, 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 like you just gonna slap yourself. Because he don't like her for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, probably he just doesn't trust her, you know, which I can understand because we find out more about his background later on.
Yeah.
But he's kind of a rough go at it.
Yeah, and anything, he's the odd person here because he is royalty.
Yeah.
Like, he is in line for the crown if Hoth kicks the bucket, and here we are.
Yeah, technically we shouldn't trust him.
I know, so Hoth should be slapping himself
Yeah.
before anybody else.
But they ask her questions, and they ask her about herself, basically her uncle, and find out that he has had the nightmare card for 11 years, and that her dad paid her uncle to allow her to live with them once she became infected.
So sad.
Yes, which I feel like her dad was just... I hated him in the beginning. I tolerated him more towards the end. You know, I started seeing him in a better light, but at the same time still, how are you just going to send your child away like that?
Yeah, I just...
And I know he did it for her protection, but it's just the fact of just how he pulled away from her relationship-wise, you know?
And if her dad is sending Uncle money, how is he in debt?
Exactly. Why can't you pay your taxes?
Yeah, because obviously Uncle has a job, and he's getting money from Daddy, who used to be the king of the Destriers, essentially. I don't understand.
I didn't understand that either. But Elm, again, starts being a butt face and asks if she thinks Raven is handsome.
And I'll be like, hot diggity dog! I know this answer. Pick me.
I know.
You ain't
I would
need
have
to say
answered that. I'm gonna answer that. No restriction at all. Yes.
Bing bang. Turn off the site. I ain't gonna fight that one.
We're done here, okay? I'm trustworthy.
Yeah. I'll tell you the truth about him.
But then they also ask about her magic and if she has any others besides seeing the colors of the Providence card, since she bested Raven in the woods.
Yeah, because she became the nightmare me.
Yes. But basically at this point she starts freaking out because she doesn't want to tell anybody that the nightmare's in her head, which I don't blame her.
Yeah.
So the nightmare takes over and breaks the control of the card and lets her answer no.
Yeah, which I thought that was crazy. I'm like, oh, so the nightmare can just be like, I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
He could have done that the whole time.
I know. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I like the nightmare, but then he's also a butt face, too.
He reminds me of Taryn from Fourth Wing.
He reminds
me of Taryn from Fourth Wing.
He, loves Elspeth, but at the same time, he's like, oh, I'm gonna make you suffer as well.
Yeah, bro, you fall off my back, you're gonna have to fall a little
That's
bit.
what I was just gonna say. Taryn, he eating her off his back. She's like, ah! And then Taryn's like, I'll come get you in a minute.
Yeah, let's struggle. Learn your lesson. I feel like that's how the nightmare is, and I think that's so funny. I love that. So you find out their plan. They're trying to break the curse before the king because the king has plans to kill Emery and use his blood with the curse. So they want to try to save Emery. So that is their biggest goal here. They love Emery. They're trying to save him. He's infected, but the king is planning to use him as a sacrifice. So you find out that the head physician, he was infected as a child.
Yeah, so basically they plan on using his blood to break the curse instead of Emery's.
Yes, so they're trying to do a flippy floppy swatch.
Flippy flappy.
And Elspeth's like, oh yeah, totally. Let's throw the king out the window. Who cares? Ain't nobody gonna kill Emery. He grabbed my arm too tight one time. But whatever. So all these people be just grabbing her and yanking her place. She's like, sure,
really
I'll help.
Do. Like, she's just like, and then she's like, okay, yeah, I'll help you. Yeah. Like, girl, you need to have some self-respect and, make these people wait a little bit longer.
She's just like, well, I'm bored. Might as well do something different today. The nightmare, I'm sick of listening to him. Like, might as well have friends.
Whatever.
Because she's basically a loner, and she stays a loner intentionally because of the nightmare and all of that stuff. But now she's like, oh, crap, I'm in the gang. I'm in gang. The Highwayman gang.
But basically their plan is to go to bring Elspeth back to Castle U. To do so, they plan to basically fake a courtship between Elspeth and Raven so that they have an excuse to bring her there.
Which is
wild. And Raven does admit that she is beautiful, but his answer to that question if he'll basically uphold the fake courtship is, if the ruse will help, I'll try. Which, annoying. But Elspeth, to this point, she's putting her little ear to the door and so that she can hear what they're saying. And Raven opens the door and basically calls her to fall on her butt, and she responds back with the same saying back to him.
Which I was like, how original, Elspeth. Like, you got a mouth.
Try harder, girl.
Yeah, you could have said something way more spicy. But then Raven ends up taking Elspeth to see Emery, but when they enter his room, he's gone. So everybody's in a panic. They're like, Jesus, Emery, not again. Because apparently Emery is like Houdini. He just be escaping and doing things. So they find Emery after he stole money from two men. Raven is beating them up. And I'm just like, what's happening?
Yeah, I thought this was such a crazy scene because it's just, not only did they get their money taken,
they got mollywopped.
They got them by Raven, and Raven just beat the crap out of them. And they're just like, dang, we didn't do anything. He stole our money.
It's just okay because he's just like the big dog of the distributors. They're just like, well, dang, I'm just getting whooped for just walking and having a good time. God, dog, you can have my money at this point. Please stop. Please stop. Elm tells Elspeth that Emery was asked to meet her because he had never met anyone else infected besides his brother, Raven. So,
freaking mind blown at this point. I was like, excuse me?
Oh, you infected too, huh? Like,
we're one.
Oh, we infected too. We nasty. We just gross. So I was just like, oh snap, this is crazy. But then I'm just like, okay, if he's infected, does everybody know?
Yeah.
But we'll find that out. The nightmare had a feeling that when Elspeth asked, why didn't you tell me? He says, surely you can see more than his handsome face.
Freaking so spicy.
And I'm just like, this nightmare is ridiculous. Just ridiculous. But he's got some mad comebacks.
Yes, he does.
And I think that's a little bit why Elspeth is probably spicy too, because she's had to listen to those comebacks her whole life. So she's been building a repertoire in her head, just ready to go off. I'm going to use these words on you because I heard them in my head. But after beating up the two guys, after Raven holds out his hands, and they put their eagle cards in it, and the white color is gone as soon as they touch his hand, which is kind of crazy. So Elspeth's looking at the card. She's like, where'd it go? Whoa. This is tricky. But he says that he can't use certain cards, so as soon as he touches them, they lose their power, and they cannot be used against him, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool thing, too. But at the same time, I was still not recovered from the point that Raven was infected.
Yeah.
I just got whiplash, and I don't understand where the story's going now.
I'm reading like, oh!
I know.
Oh! So Rachel done pressed on the gas. Like, we driving this book now.
But they take Elspeth to Castle U, which at this point I thought was also kind of weird that no one questioned it. They're like, hey, I met you one time, but we're dating now.
Yeah, but
and I'm going to take her with me. No one asked a question. No one was like, why, Elspeth? No, they were like, okay, peace out, girl, have fun.
Status.
Yeah, exactly.
Status. You going up the chain, girl. You go ahead and get you some protection. Because it ain't me. I ain't going to protect you. I'm your family.
Exactly.
You can go to your aunt.
But at this point, Elspeth is mad at Raven because she basically finds out that he was infected, and he got to live this full life of after he got infected. He was like able to be the guard. He has his family that's basically ride or die with him, and she wasn't able to do anything.
It's really sad.
Yeah. And he walks her to his room, and he asks, what are we? And Elspeth says, nothing. Isn't that what you wanted? And slams the door in his face.
But I think it was so crazy because he asked her, so I'm like, oh, you thinking about her.
I know. Oh, you like her.
I know what you're doing, my guy.
I know, you like her. That was quick.
Ooh.
I was here for it.
It's coming. It's coming. What I've been waiting for. But then we go to the gardens, and Raven returns to the castle. Elspeth heads to the garden to avoid him because she's just like, man, he don't want me. She's throwing a little temper tantrum over
she's
it.
like, wah, wah, wah.
Nightmares
wah,
just
wah.
in her head like, Jesus, these hormones, I can't stand them. But she makes a crown out of branches and looks for flowers to adorn it. Raven surprises her and cuts a rose from a bush and removes the thorns and asks if he can put it on her crown. And I was like,
he can put a rose on my crown, if you know what I'm saying.
he can put a rose in my crown, you know what I'm saying?
We trying to be blooming and budding up in here.
Don't leave the thorns at this point. Leave the thorns. That takes too much time.
Oh my God.
But I thought it was such a random act of kindness from him because I was like, okay, they beefing. They kind of like each other, but they still beefing. And he's intentionally watching her make this while she doesn't know. And he's just like, here's a beautiful flower. Let me put it in your crown, my little cupcake. You know? So she's just like, I thought we were pretending. And he's just like, it's just a flower. Flowers don't play games.
Which to me was such a, I don't know, such an annoying comment to me.
Yes. What's that supposed to mean, my guy?
Yeah. It was just very annoying to me.
Okay, so flowers don't play games, so what, it's gonna die?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what are you trying to tell me?
Like, are we supposed to water it or what?
Yeah, why'd you take off its thorns? What's happening? I got questions. But she's just like, he's beautiful. I guess I'll let him weave it into this crown on top of my head. And then as he pulls away, his hand grazes her cheek. My little Elspeth. And I was just like, what? Why? Like, because Raven hasn't given any indications that he actually really like. I mean, it's been very, very minuscule.
Very just like small little breadcrumbs of, oh, hey, I like you.
Yeah, so this is just okay. Then it's happening out of nowhere.
It just pissed me off.
They beefing and they in the garden being lovey-dovey. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
But then after this nice little lovey moment, basically they're like, okay, now it's time to steal the Iron Gate card. Like, we rolling it back, okay?
We stealing together.
Exactly, we rolling it back. Which is basically one of the cards that they need to finish the deck, and they plan on stealing it from Father Pine. So Elspeth at this part which this scene was just kind of funny to me. She's given pants to change into out of her dress and comes out feeling awkward because I don't think she's ever really worn pants before.
Yeah.
And it's just, am I better suited for the task? And Raven says, much better. But Homie was blushing.
Yeah.
Homie was like, oh, okay. Like I think it said that a flush crept up his neck into his cheeks.
Because you know they were tight pants.
Like, they were leggings, girl.
Yeah, they see through. No, I'm just kidding.
But at the same time, I also pictured like Elspeth looking like a little stable hand, like a
Oh
little boy.
And Raven's just like, oh hot dang.
I know, he's like, dang, I like Bill.
I'll let you shovel it. I'll let you do it. You go do what you need to. Get that hay. You bend over, get that hay.
But at the same time, I didn't think that he would be a blusher.
No, not at all.
You know?
Not at all.
Like, I feel like Raven puts on this, like, mask over himself. And these little moments with Elspeth, we see a little bit more into the real him.
Yeah.
You know?
He's putting up a front.
Yes.
But we gonna break it down, because that's our man.
Ooh. But Elspeth has to ride a horse, which she's freaking out about, because animals don't really like her that much since the nightmare has been into her head.
Yeah.
But to this point, Raven can see that she's a little bit nervous, so he challenges her by asking her if he can help. She agrees, but as he steps closer, he hesitates, and the flush returns to his cheeks.
Oh,
because he's getting close to his girl.
In her cheeks.
Yeah.
He's getting close to all her cheeks.
No, both cheeks and both lips, if you know what I'm saying.
So like Wario or something over here.
He's able to sit her on the saddle, which I was like, oh, he's strong. He just threw her up on the saddle like that.
She must not eat.
Because this chunky dunk over here,
You'd have to do a couple bounces to get me. To use some momentum.
We would need bounces in a 1, 2, 3 as
Yeah,
well.
Like, you know when you dip an Oreo? You gotta do a couple of those before we get it on a horse. You know what I'm saying?
We need a little couple chunky dunks.
Yeah. Because you gotta get a little workout before you get around there. You gotta prepare your quads. I mean, when you pick me up, automatic blush just because of the blood rushing to your face to try to pick me
It's
up.
all the effort. All the effort you're having to put up there.
You see veins too, like it's just a lot.
It's not love, it's effort.
Yeah. It's like, God damn, I'm never doing that again. Never picking this girl up. What the heck?
Oh, man. But Elm, of course, being the butt face that he is, ruins this moment. Mm-hmm. And it's just all in the back. Blah, blah, blah. Who can't ride a horse? Do you think we would walk? The horse is scared because she knows that she's not normal. He's just back there just talking so much crap.
I would have done slapped him 3 times.
100%.
He'd been asleep. I'd have been like, da!
It's 100%.
That would have been worth using the mirror card.
Oh, 1,000%. But then also, the nightmare's being a butt face at this point, too, because Elm is talking all this trash, and the nightmare's like, oh, well, I'm just going to hiss at this horse inside of her head, and then the horse bucks her off.
Why is everybody being mean?
Right?
Why?
Elspeth is just out here trying to survive. And she just can't. She's just out here just getting stomped on. But Elspeth is embarrassed, asking if anybody has seen. And Elma's like, no, just 6 people. Like...
So messed up.
No, he's such a butt face.
Yeah, I was not vibing with Elm at this point.
Me either. But Raven checks her for injuries and asks if he can touch her to check for injuries. Baby, he didn't have to ask me.
No, I'd be like...
I would have been taking off my little ties.
I'd be like, oh, it ripped. Help.
But the end of the scene, I would have been so mad if I was Elsbeth too, because since she couldn't ride a horse, she has to ride with the most skilled rider, which is Elm.
Yeah, I would have been so mad if I had to ride with Elm. This guy has been harassing me, but I love how Elm was also pissed. It kind of happened that way. I was like, yeah, that's what you get for talking crap. Now I got to ride with you. I'm going to hold onto your waist extra hard.
Yeah, I would have been pinching his side so hard.
But as they're waiting for Father Pine, Raven apologized for attacking Elspeth on the road that one night. I'm like, okay, it's kind of late for that, but whatever.
Right? Like, we've been together for days now.
Yeah, you could have done that the first night when you're like, hey, meet my gang of bandits. But he looked for her for 3 days to speak with her about what happened, but she accepts his apology under a specific condition, and he has to call her Elspeth. And I was like, aw, that's kind of lame. You could have said anything else. But, you know, whatever your name's. It's cool. But he smiles and does his little Flynn Rider, you know, smolder.
Smolder.
But as Pine's coming down the road, they realize there's more of the party than they expected. But it's the prince and some of the Destriers, and they're like, mother trucker. Like, it's about to be chaos. So chaos erupts. Raven uses the mirror card because he's like, oh, they can't see me, I'm their leader. And then he takes Elspeth with him. They can't see me. They'll know I'm bad. But she ends up taking Elspeth with him so that way she could show him where the Iron Gate card is. And as she is running away, she sees her father and Elm fighting, and this would bother me. I'd be like, no, wait, Daddy.
Like, who do you choose at that point, too?
I'd have been mad because both these guys suck, but one's my dad.
Well, also, could you imagine in the heat of the battle just getting nailed in the head with a rock?
God.
You're just over there sword fighting with somebody, you're about to stab and then you just get knocked in the noggin with a rock.
Yeah, she was so wild for that. She was so wild. Everybody's out there fighting with swords. She's throwing rocks. Girl, what is this? This is not an 80s movie. Chill out. But Elm was able to get her way, and her dad ends up throwing a knife at her. And my heart was beating so fast. I was like, oh no, she's gonna die.
Yeah, same.
But then the nightmare takes over and catches that thing.
No, he's like,
and literally was just like, da-da! Daddy-O is being sent. He is being sent.
Almost put that toe in my eye.
I did. You lucky they clean today. But literally, freaking Miyagi does that bull crap, and Daddy goes flying.
Was it the mantis? Is that what he does?
But yeah, the praying. Is that what it's called?
I don't know. That's what it looked like.
Whatever the guy did, and Mr. Miyagi. What was the name of the movie called? The Karate Kid.
Karate Kid.
I was like, it ain't called Mr. Miyagi. But whatever. Then Elsbeth is running, and she runs into Jesper while she's fighting with a destrier. Jesper ends up losing her charm. And
my heart, was pounding so hard in this moment. I was like, holy crap. Are we gonna lose her?
Yeah, so she just smells the mist, and it's just like, oh, yeah, we going into the
salty
mist.
Stank.
But Jesper ends up sniffing the Kool-Aid and runs into the forest.
And barges through like the Kool-Aid man.
Yeah, like, ah! So Elsbeth is like, no! And she starts running to Raven to get his extra charm because Papa Raven carries 2 charms because he's smart, unlike all of us. And so since they are infected,
his charm's not that smart though.
Right, but they don't need the charms because they're infected. So they're just, the mist ain't gonna do nothing to them. But on the way, Hoth ends up sneaking up on Elsbeth. And I can't handle much more.
There was so much going on in this portion of the book. I was like, what else is gonna happen?
Yeah, so Hoth ends up catching her, breaking her wrist. And then the nightmare comes out and like, not my wrist. And then he gets his eye. He's like, and he's like, an eye for an eye.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sitting here.
As it should be. Gone. Pop off, Nightmare.
So we're trying to poke him in the eye. Jesper's running into the mist. Raven, we don't know where he is. I don't know what
Elm, we don't know where he is.
Daddy, I done yeeted him across the forest. This is just too much right now. But Elsbeth finds Raven, and he is upset about her wrist. He's like, my baby.
I know.
My baby. Just shaking it in there. But he's like, oh, God, we got to help Jesper. Who cares about your wrist? Never mind. But they ended up getting Jesper. She's healed. And then they secure the Iron Gate card.
Mm-hmm. They secured the bag.
Yeah, they got it. After all of that nonsense.
Jesus, I know.
Like, stressed. That would have been a good card. I'm telling you, the blissful card.
Yep.
Could you imagine?
Right here.
La la la, throw a rock. La la la, kick your chest. La la la.
Wrist broke.
That's like her jam. That was the whole bop. La la la.
But we have a nice little, another lovey-dove moment after all that craziness that just happened. But Raven offers to take Elsbeth back so she doesn't have to ride back with Elm, thank God. But he helps her get off the saddle, and his hand is lingering and making small circles. At this point, I'm like, bro, just bring that hand a little lower.
Lingering small circles.
It's just like holding on like this. It's like
I'm just like, you can linger somewhere and make small
a little
circles.
lower. Raven asks Elsbeth if she still wants to pretend. And Elsbeth says, do you? And Raven says, of all the things I pretend, courting you has turned out to be the easiest. But during this moment, Elsbeth's feeling a little sassy, so she decides to walk away. And he's yelling, well, do you like me? No, do you love me? And she says, it's infuriating when you are only given half answers, huh, Captain?
Oh man.
And he says, call me Raven for us to make it believable. And she smiles and calls him Raven. And he says, I guess that's my answer. I was kicking my feet at this point. I was like, oh my God, they're so cute.
But I was so mad. I was like, why y'all be like that? Why can't y'all just love each other? I don't know why I'm like that in every book I read. I'm like, just love each other.
I am too. I'm like, just get to it.
The suspense hurts me.
I know.
It literally hurt.
I
This
know.
book hurt me.
Yeah.
But anyways, Ione and Hoth decide to visit Castle U. And this one was just a big, what the heck? Because, Hoth just got mollywopped in the forest by the nightmare. He got his eye poked and all this other kind of crazy stuff. But it was just out of left field. Raven asked them to come with the Destriers to train since Hoth was attacked. It's always Raven doing some bullcrap like that.
I'm telling you, just sit down.
Yeah, because I feel
I'm tired for him.
And nobody tells Elspeth anything. Because if I would have woke up and I would have saw Hoth there, I would have been like... But Raven's like, oh yeah, I invited him.
Oh yeah, by the way.
Yeah, so Hoth has no idea that they're the ones that beat him up. And you can see that Hoth is a little bit suspicious of Elspeth's wrist. Oh,
your wrist got a boo-boo?
I hurt somebody's wrist yesterday. Mm-hmm. But Elle makes a joke saying to Hoth, I'm surprised you let someone mess up that pretty little face of yours.
I love spicy Elle.
This is where I'm like, okay, Elma's starting to go... a little bit up. He's moving on.
We're getting some bonus points here.
And then Ione ends up laughing, which I thought, okay, she's still in there. Because she's still using the maiden card. So she's still out there looking beautiful and not gap-toothed. But Raven and Hoth end up sparring. Raven whoops him.
Freaking takes him out.
Because Raven's still mad that he broke her wrist, so he's got some pent-up frustrations to get out without letting him know. So the 3 Destriers end up having to pull him off of Hoth.
After they freaking stomp on his hand.
Yes! Well, at least they let him do it. But after they pull him off, Elle warns Raven to stay away from Elspeth since she was able to miss up Hoth's face. And Elspeth is listening in and makes too much noise while running away because she's always that guy.
She always be just getting caught.
I know. She is not sneaky. She falls through the door. She's making noise when she runs. But Raven finds her and asks to take her somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So they decide to go out on a walk. And during their walk, we find out that Hoth is actually the one that narked to the king about Raven and Emery being infected. He's your cousin. He's your family.
And he's a jerk.
Yes, like just a big old butt face. The king and Hoth hate those who are infected, but the king uses them for his convenience as well. Even though he hates them, he also uses them.
He's smart. He utilizes the tools. But, I mean, he's still a horrible king. But, I mean, at least he's not Hoth. Hoth would just throw everybody into the mess.
He would just kill everybody.
Yeah, he'd just be throwing them out there.
But Raven takes Elspeth to the ruins that they went to before, which is basically, we find out that it's like the Shepherd King's little, like, quarters.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, which was wild to me. I just love how everything was just pieced together, like little tidbits of everything. And it's the same place that she actually dreams of when she sees a nightmare and sees him as a knight or a king, which I thought these dreams were pretty cool.
Yeah, I just always envisioned them as so epic, especially like when she was talking about him wearing the gold armor and stuff. I was like, ooh.
And for some reason, I like pictured this like grainy kind of like, like this dark grainy just kind of filter, I guess you could say.
And almost like visions versus a solid dream.
Yes, yeah. And it flashes of just his bright gold armor and stuff like
that.
I'm glad we were sitting here thinking the same thing.
Dang, I mean, she wrote it good.
Yes.
She wrote it good.
She did. But Raven shows Elspeth where he hides the cards, which is basically a stone altar inside of that little place where the Shepherd King used to be. But it can only open with the blood of those who are infected, is what we find out. Raven says every year he loses the ability to use a Providence card, and it can't be used against him.
Which I still think is such a cool ability.
It's
sad
really
and good
cool
at the same time.
But if that's his degeneration, that ain't that bad for one.
Yeah, like, oh, what you mean you can't use your card against me?
Yeah. Like, sorry about it.
Not sorry.
But here we find out more about Elm, which kind of made me like him a little bit more. It made me just understand him as a person.
Yeah.
So we find out that he was mistreated because he liked books, which, I mean, I would have gotten picked on if that was the society we lived in.
I had to hide my good reads.
Yeah. And the king saw him as weak, and he was raised by his mother. But when she died, Hoth just became awful and just started picking on him. And Raven was like, my boy, you're just going to come home with me. And basically became his new family. Prior to closing the stone, Raven is about to cut his hand so that he can do it. And Elspeth is like, no, I want to do it. He tells her she can't do it. Well, she gets pissed off and she's like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to get out of here since you're not going to let me do my own womanly things, make my own decisions. But he catches her and he just makes a tiny little cut on her palm. And he says, no need to scar those pretty little hands. Which I was like, okay, we're about to get a little freaky deek in here.
We about to get frisky.
We about to be touching. We going to be making circles lower.
Yeah, like lower.
But he uses his fingers to stop the bleeding and mentions how he can feel her heart racing. And Elspeth is, of course, trying to fight her feelings, and she's like, I don't know why.
Nightmare's just in there.
I know. Like, and at this point, too, Could you imagine being this a centuries old being, and then you have to be in someone's mind that's basically a teenager / young adult, and listen to them fall in love?
God, I'd be so
I just
mad.
know he was annoyed.
Because she can't even be talking about freakly things in her brain. She can't even think about it without him knowing it. And so it's just, God, how do you censor your thoughts like that? You can't. So it's just like, well, I want to pull his pants off.
Yep, I want to see that pee-pee.
Yep, whatever.
Yep, the magic peen.
The magic
peen. But Raven smiles at this point, and he's just like, oh, really? Little sly dog that he is. And asks if she's still pretending because she's really good at it.
Aww.
And Elspeth says, no better than you, Captain. Well, at this point, homie just becomes wild. Like, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to put your hand on my chest, and you're going to feel my heart. And then after that, like, it's just bam, like, bodies just flew together. And I was living for it. I was like, he was growling as soon as they collided. He was pulling her hair to get her neck. It was just so many things going on.
Yeah, we were ready for it.
Yes.
We needed it.
Yes, but of course, the nightmare and all his nonsense ruined the moment. Because basically, while they're like, la, 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 in the corner, she sees the golden armor and basically somebody screaming at her to let me out, which I'd be scared too. I don't think I could continue kissing.
Yeah, I'd be like, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. 1 second.
But during this point, Elspeth pushes Raven away, and later we find out that the nightmare, he's actually the Shepherd King. Did you guess this part?
No.
No, I didn't either.
No. I feel like once it got to this part, it made lots of sense, but...
It did. I feel like it was duh in my head after we found it out, but I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, but I did really like that he ended up being the Shepherd King.
And during this part, too, we also found out, like, Elspeth, like, her degeneration is basically every time she asks a nightmare for his help, that he just slowly starts becoming stronger and she fades away.
Which is so sad because she's been asking him for a lot of help recently, so she's starting to fade into the darkness.
Yep.
But the day after their hot and steamy moment, Market Day, she wears the rose he gave her when she made the crown. It's so sweet.
No, especially because he sees it and he basically does his little smile, his smolder.
And Hoth stops in front of her and squeezes her injured hand. And I was just like, excuse me, sir, what are you doing? And he is questioning her, like, why is your hand hurt, basically. But Ione steps in and is just like, excuse me, my prince, my love.
I feel like her voice with the maiden card sounds like bells for some reason.
Yes.
Like it was just high-pitched and like angelic in a way.
Yes. And she's just like, she injured her hand when we went riding together and fell off a horse. But it makes sense because animals don't like her, so it's a believable story. And Hoth is just like, like... When there's an answer for that. But the nightmare ends up playing wingman and tells her to tell Raven how she feels, which I was just like, wait, Papa Nightmare, what's happening?
Yeah. I feel like after he had to live through the little makeout session that he just started warming up to Raven and Elspeth a little bit more.
But I like how he was just so reluctant.
Trees.
Yeah. Jesus, how do I say this? Trees. Tell him how you feel. But Raven ends up finding Elspeth at the market, and she starts by saying, about last night and me running away. And he says, it's probably best you did. And she's like, oh? And then this.
Let me tell you, this right here. Raven, he had me gnawing at the bars of my enclosure at this point. I was like trying to get to him, okay? Like, please.
He said, I resisted Elspeth because I was already imagining how I might press my finger against your wet lips again, like I had in my room. And that was nothing to the wicked things I was imagining after we argued in the garden. I was like, phew. I resisted. Need a fan. Because I haven't stopped thinking about you since that first night on the forest road. And I realized at equinox that the closer I let myself get to you, the less I'd want to be the king's captain. The less I'd want to pretend. And it's dangerous for me, for my family, to stop pretending. It's not safe to draw too close to me. I'm a liar, a traitor. And somewhere there will be a reckoning. The highwayman meets the hangman.
I'll tell you, I was passing away, girl. I was like, whoa. God, in this moment. Melted, okay? Melted.
And then she responds, then be a liar, Raven. Betray, upturn the kingdom. That would see you and me and Emery killed. It's not they who bring the reckoning. It's you. It is us. Ooh, these lines smacked so hard.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Highlight on the Kindle. Highlight on the Kindle. Just highlight the whole chapter.
chapter. At
The
this point.
whole
Honestly,
chapter.
The book, okay.
But this is a huge shift in their relationship because they are finally telling basically their feelings. He's like, I love you. I just want to love you. And she's just like, oh, let's be dangerous together. Let's upturn the kingdom. Who cares? Come kiss me again, big boy. Like,
what that tongue do?
let me see.
But I also think, too, it's just because they've both been so alone.
Yes.
And I think that's why they're slowly starting to realize that they're more alike than they first assumed.
Yeah, they infected together.
They are. So Hoth is just being a big old butt face like he always is, and basically finds a family that's hiding an infected person at market day. The parents are whipped and sent into the mist, which was wild to me. I was like, dang, we're just getting down to business at this point.
Yeah, because he used a scythe on them to make them go.
Yep. And a fight breaks out between the King's Guard that are like Team Raven versus Team Hoth. And Elspeth takes the child away from the physician and runs into the woods. Lyndon, which is basically the right-hand man of Hoth, runs after her. And the nightmare takes over and basically slits his throat. Like,
Which,
insane, okay? And I feel
Yes.
like in this scene, it happened so fast.
yeah, this was like
There was no
fast-paced.
build-up. It was just, we running, we slitting. Like, that was it. Like, that was it.
Crazy.
And as she's running away from him, she runs into Raven. And at this point, this is the first time that he's actually seen her yellow eyes fully and that her fingers are claws. Which he just remains so calm and is just like, hey, what happened? And I just feel like if I saw somebody run in the woods looking like that, I would just pass away. I would just be gone.
I'd be like, oh no.
Oh no, I'd be like, Tabby, you there?
I forgot something.
To the trees!
To the tree. I'm gonna go in the mist. Here's my charm. I don't care anymore. Bye. But they end up going back to Castle U. Elspeth tells Raven all about her degeneration. Degeneration. And things get spicy.
Let me tell you, I love this man.
And not some corn cob spicy, but some good spicy. And he says, can I kiss you? And she says, a little late for that, don't you think? Not on your mouth. Here.
And homie gets on his knees. He gets on his knees in front of her.
Excuse me. I wasn't ready for these.
I was ready.
I wasn't ready for the bars.
I was ready.
I was like, oh, y'all just ran into the mist and now you're talking about, oh. This whole book is just started flying. I'm going to sit here on the ride, like, I'm literally just on this roller coaster, just crazy at this point.
I loved it.
So, anyways, Jesper catches Elspeth leaving Raven's room that morning.
Which was so funny to me.
Yeah.
I just know she was probably giving her the eye. She's like, girl, I know what you were doing.
Yeah, the walk of shame. Yeah, I heard through the wall. Like, just something. But at breakfast, Raven comes down. He's all smiling. Like, he's just like...
No, he's like, I got on my knees, guys.
Elspeth.
Oh my God. Oh, dear God.
Elma's disturbed. Jesper is laughing. And Elspeth is embarrassed.
You know how Listerine got wintergreen flavor? It's winter Elspeth. It's cool mist.
Spirit of the woods.
Oh, Lord.
Spirit of her woods.
Yes.
To the tree.
To the tree.
But moment is ruined with them being nasty, you know, when Emery coughs up blood and they're just like, oh crap, we're looking for cards.
God, can't nobody be happy around this moment this
Yeah,
time?
nobody
Jesus.
can just have a good moment and
No.
just be all right with it.
All right, so fast forward, we're at Spindle House for the twins' name days, and the group goes to look for the well card because Mr. Eric has it.
Yeah.
Hoth uses his Scathe card to use Ione to lure... Scathe, God dang it, Scythe. I don't know why I want to say Scathe.
I don't either. It's so funny every time. Though. I don't even want to correct you. It's great.
I know, you don't ever correct me.
I
on
just
words.
laugh.
I know.
It's like, yeah, it's a Scathe. That's like the slang term for it.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, that's
a
Scathe.
street name,
That's
alright.
a Scathe. He's got a Scathe card.
So Hoth uses his Scythe card That's right. Scythe. Okay, use the scythe to use Ione to lure the group to a table to basically toast with her. Hoth uses a chalice card to make them all tell the truth because he is suspicious of all of them. Which these questions for me just made me mad.
Yeah.
A lot of them just made me mad. Ione asks if Elspeth is in love. Why is this important in this moment?
It's not.
It's not. Elsbeth tried to lie, but it came out as that she was in love with Raven, and which I love. I thought that was super sweet. And she tries to remove her hand, and Raven was like, "Nah, girl, you gonna hold my hand?
Yeah,
you're not gonna be embarrassed about our love.
You in love with me? You gotta hold my hand now."
It's because he gave her the spirit of the wood.
Because he tasted that winter Elsbeth.
But then Elspeth's question, this one is the one that just pissed me off the most.
Yeah,
because Hoth is at the table. You're under control of the chalice. I just feel, aren't we a little nervous that Hoth is there, that we're out here, we're going to be forced to tell the truth?
Yeah.
But no, she asked Raven if you're still pretending. What does that matter right now?
It don't.
And it just pissed me off. But basically, he kisses her and says, "I never was." And I don't know. Can you read the room? We're in danger here. Why are we talking about love?
And Raven and her making eyes at each other.
Yeah, they're like, "I love you. I'm gonna hold your hand. I'm gonna think about what we did last night."
Yeah,
and we're okay. I think they must be using the card where they're just blissfully happy.
Yeah, they have to be. It's somewhere in the room.
Somewhere in the room, somebody's using on them. But Hoth asks Elspeth how she injures her wrist. Basically, everybody starts arguing. Raven wants to help her, so he breaks his promise and uses a nightmare card to go into her head. And she is yelling at him, screaming at him, basically in her mind to get out of her head because she doesn't want him to find out about the nightmare. But he goes in there to try to calm her, but the nightmare basically jump scares him. And, and he sees the nightmare in her head and falls from the table.
And I just couldn't imagine just sitting there. You see Elsbeth probably like,
yeah.
And then freaking Raven just... pause. It's like, what?
Especially because Raven isn't one to be scared, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's this big bad person, and he's just this big bad man, and he falls out of the table because he's scared.
Like, crazy.
But Ione uses this time to basically deactivate the chalice card, and Elsbeth vomits blood.
Yeah.
Which, with the chalice card, it makes you sick and all this other stuff, but for me, it didn't feel like the card was being used on her very long.
Yeah, enough to make her sick. I don't know. But at the same time, why couldn't the nightmare have just deactivated that?
Exactly.
He's like, boo, Raven.
I know.
He's over there playing boo scare games.
I think he just wanted to scare Raven. I think that's what it was.
He's like, "Oh, you can struggle a little bit." "Hey, boy, what you doing in my waters?"
You ever seen a mangina?
Oh, here it is. Do you love me? I would have probably fell on my seat, too.
You drink Bailey's from a shoe?
I'm the Chef of King!
Oh my God. I love old Greg.
So good.
But she wakes up the next day and she finds Raven in her room and basically lets him go back into her mind to just show him the nightmare. So they aren't able to speak much about it because Raven's called away by the king, of course. You gotta ruin all the moments. So after Raven leaves to go do the king's business, her father comes in and gives her the well card, which if he would have just came a day earlier, they could have saved him all this business. Mm-hmm. But then before Raven leaves, she was able to tell him about her father giving her the card. Mm-hmm. And basically she apologizes for him for not telling her about her powers, and he says he understands. But the last line of this chapter took me out. Mm-hmm. Because she says, "Be safe, I whispered into the wind as Raven you disappeared beyond the gate. Had I known they'd be the last words I ever said to him out loud, I might have chosen them differently." This gave me so much anxiety.
Yeah, I was like...
Yeah, I literally turned the page immediately. I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?" Like, if Rachel would have ended the book on that note, I would have been so mad.
I would have passed away.
I would have been so freaking mad.
Could you imagine reading this series, though, while she was releasing the books, and if it would have ended like that?
Upset.
See,
upset. I would have freaking rioted.
I would have stood outside her house. I'd be like, "Give me the next chapter. I can't stand this any longer. I don't know where you live, but I'm going to be like the FBI and find it real quick because this is messed up." Messed up. But then it comes to the treachery, the trickery, the lies, the scandal. Sorry, I was feeling it. But Elspeth's uncle ends up tricking her, and it's just like, "Hey, Elspeth, your Aunt Opal is waiting for you in this attic." Why is she in the attic, Uncle? I don't know. That's just the place she chose to be.
Just come on, girl.
It's the truth. And I'm sitting here at this point, I'm like, seriously? But it's Prince Hoth waiting for her surprise. Elspeth's an idiot. And that's like the only part of this book I was like,
Yeah.
the attic. Really, the top of the tower. Really.
Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I love it when ants up in the attic. Just love that. But her uncle did this without the control of the scythe, so he did this intentionally, and that is the heartbreak in this.
Pissed.
Uncle betrayed her.
Pissed. Remember at the beginning of this when we talked about the nightmare talks about his little sayings?
Yeah.
And they talk about how
The few seeds.
Yes, this is it. This
Yes.
right here was it.
Yes. So we find out Uncle sucks, and he told Hoth that she's infected. And so Hoth wants her to tell him everything, like what Raven's been up to, what everything that has been going on. And Elspeth asks the nightmare for help, but he tells her her degeneration is almost complete and he doesn't know what will happen. But Elspeth has to make a choice in this moment. So she whispers goodbye and tells the nightmare to do it. And I was just like,
Into the wind.
I was crying at this point. I don't know if you were. I cried every book.
Yeah,
but
I
I
wasn't
was
crying, but I was stressed.
crying because she's like, goodbye. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I know.
But the nightmare helps her get free, but there is a knock at the door, and it's the head physician. And with his claw, which this physician has a claw, and it's really creepy.
The claw!
And he uses it to collect infected blood. But the Dustriers are coming back through the gate, and Elspeth attempts to scream so that Raven may hear her.
This is the part that was making me freak out. Like, when she was talking about that she whispered goodbye, and then it came to the part where she was screaming for Raven for help. I was like, wait, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna make it in time?
Yes.
This is the part I was freaking out about.
And she is fighting Oreth and Hoth, and at the end, Hoth slams her head into the wall, and I was like, oh my gosh. But she had messed up Hoth pretty bad.
She did.
Like,
she probably deserved one little smack.
Yeah, she had to get a smack somewhere because it would have just been unfair. But Raven ends up using his nightmare card to speak with her, but she wasn't able to answer before she just conked out. But she wakes up as the nightmare. And this is the part. This whole ending was killing me.
Yep.
And she kills Orent. Good. Thank you. Good. He punches Hoth. The nightmare tells his story about how the Rowans end up stealing his kingdom. Which, I'm just like, I don't have time for this story now.
I got chills, like, thinking about this right now.
I don't have time for you to tell how they stole the kingdom from the U's. Don't care. I care about what's happening right now.
Why couldn't you tell me this earlier?
Yeah.
Why wasn't this earlier?
Why you gotta do this to me? Okay, just because she passed out doesn't mean it's time for a cutscene. No. But Elspeth ends up fading away, and the nightmare promises to help the U's. And I'm just like, where's she going?
I know. I was like, is she coming back? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Is she gonna come back before the end of this book?
Like,
or
is she gone?
Yeah.
Like, where do they go? The Island of Misfit Toys? Like, what's happening here? Where is she going? But they end up taking the nightmare to a cell, and Raven is just losing it.
he's distraught.
Yeah, he lost his love.
Which, poor little sweet baby. He had to hide so much of his life, and finally he was opening up to someone where he could be honest with them and not have to hide his true self, and the freaking nightmare takes over.
So he's all boo-hoo, losing his love, and she's just a nightmare, looking raggedy in the dungeon with yellow eyes. He's got the smell of the nightmare on him.
The spirit of the wood.
He's got the spirit of the woods.
But the king comes to speak with the nightmare. And the nightmare's basically telling him, hey, if you release Emery to his parents, and you can use the nightmare's blood instead. Which, at this point, too, I was like, but then you would be killing Elspeth. I don't understand this. I thought you were ride or die, nightmare. I don't understand.
Yep.
And he says if he does this, and he will tell the king where the last Twin Antler card is, because he was the last one to have it.
Twin Antler.
I don't know what it is. The Adler? What is it?
Alder.
That one.
The Twin Atlas. Twin Aldis.
This like
The Twin Aldi card receipt.
down the road, man. But this part broke my heart when Raven tried to reach Elspeth again to see. He uses his nightmare card to go into her mind, but all he sees is the nightmare in his brain, and the Shepherd King pushes him out.
And it was so sad because it's just like, she's not there.
I know.
I'm just sitting here. I want to read this book. I gotta start book 2.
Yes, immediately started it.
Because he's just constantly reaching for her at any time he can. Yeah, this was an excellent series.
It really did. Rachel, I don't know what you were doing, girl, with this, but you slapped hard.
Yeah, whatever Kool-Aid you were drinking, I want some.
Yeah.
Because
were you in the mist?
Yeah.
Because the mist did you right.
Who was in your woods? Because that was some banging stuff that you just did.
If someone was in the spirit of your woods, good job.
Yeah, good job.
Go back to them.
Yeah, please write another series. Please, I don't even care. Make it Emery's story. I don't know anything. I want to read right now.
Alright, guys. Well, thanks for joining as we talked about One Dark Window. Join us again when we talk about Two Twisted Crowns.
Two Twisted Crowns.
Woo-hoo! Well, we'll see you next time, and stay spicy.